Oh, there we go. That's the way to do it now.
Can you get more than four screens per page?
I've got 6.
How do you do that?
I've got 12.
Mine only brings up the
9 on
one
my
that's actually talking.
Yeah, you just go on the screen, Yehuda, press share a gallery view, Yehuda.
Gallery view, got it.
My problem is
Gallery view.
Got it now.
Where does it say gallery view?
Holly,
Top on the screen on the top.
can you get somebody on Kula Loshen to check if they could be being recorded?
On Color Lotion.
Yeah, I did it to Kula Loshen. Just check it to see if it's working. I don't know. I did it. I put in all the numbers.
I'll call now. Hold on.
Thank you.
CC gallery view.
Good luck, everybody.
Good luck.
Can't see the other.
You can't see me. I can see myself.
You can get a good 20 on the same screen if you're on a different view.
What do you press?
The top hand button. I don't know on an iPad. On a computer you can.
Just says leave.
No,
But where's the icon to Rabbi Yehuda?
I can see you, Tolly.
Top right corner is.
I can see everyone besides Rabbi Yehuda.
Tolly, you can't see me?
Swipe to the right,
Oh,
or to the
shit.
left, and you can
Just
see
share
more
that.
people.
Oh, now I can.
I'll be available for that.
Yeah, but how do you get everyone?
Share now. From Zoom.
What are you watching on, Tolly? On the iPad?
iPad, I can. You have to swipe across. Yeah, iPad maybe.
Yeah,
Right
well,
now,
Everybody put on mute unless unless you're asking questions.
He is the
Done.
Tolly?
Yeah, I'm calling Color Lotion now. Give me 1 minute. Let me just test Color Lotion. 1 sec.
Here, everyone should put on mute in the bottom left screen unless asking a question, because otherwise Rabbi Yehuda goes off the screen every time someone makes a noise.
A second, it's not.
You should see a red thing in the bottom hand corner that shows that you are.
It's playing music on Kula Loshen.
You can do Alt A as well.
It's not working. Sorry, hold on 1 second. I'm just trying to get
Welcome to the Torah Broadcasting System.
You're not on Rabbi Yehuda.
on. I think.
חדש בכל הלשון. אפשרות למינוי לתיקייה וקבלת צנתוק כשמוקלט שיעור חדש. For live shiurim, press star. English. Press. For live shiurim in Joseph Shalom Khan. Current Masechta. Press 21. Current Masechta. 28. Rav Yitzchak Firestone Yomi. Current Masechta. 30. Press the line you'd like to listen.
It's not on Rabbi Yehuda.
Select choice.
דף יומי שיר שבס דף תסבוב עמוד א'.
Look at all the stereo.
Press 5 Rabbi Yehuda, I think, after that now.
Hello? Now, Tolly, is it working?
Let me try again. Hold on.
I think it should be working now.
I'll try now. 1 sec.
Hello? You'll have to start the share. Hopefully it's on Kula Loshen. If not, people can hear it on this.
They can call in.
Can you hear it now?
I'm just checking now.
28. Rav Yitzchak Firestone Yomi. Current Masechta.
No, but it should be on now. It's not from
Rav Yehuda Steinberg.
Yes.
Shabbos.
You're on.
33.
You're on.
Press the line you'd like to listen to.
Are you sure I'm on now?
You're listening to the Shiur of Rav Yehuda Steinberg. Yitzia Hakishu Efes.
Right, okay. Good luck, everybody. Nice to see you. Everybody should say hello to each other. I don't know how often you get to see each other a week. Good luck. Everybody okay? Are you all right? Yeah?
All on mute.
I don't know if you noticed the after of today, if you managed to read it at home. The after talks about it's a cheska, and there are many psukim which are very hard to understand, including on Shabbos being 6 korbanos, on Rosh Chodesh being 6, which we don't, on Shabbos being 2, on Rosh Chodesh being 7. It struck me because the Gemara we did last time was that this Talmud Chacham, his name was Hanania ben Chizkiah ben Goen, we had it yesterday, he went up on Thursday night actually, went up into the loft, so it took 300 barrels of oil to try and explain it. So if you notice that after it's difficult, that is one of the difficulties that we had.
Can you put your phone closer for Kol HaLashon, they're saying, if possible? Text to me.
The problem is, okay, we might run out of battery. It looks like it's quite full. Can you hear now?
Yeah, he said better now, yeah.
Right, very good. We're starting on Shabbos after Svav Amud Aleph. Again, very lot of chizuk. I have to mention, I see everybody getting together. Not easy with all the tildes and everything else that Shabbos went through. It's very nice. And wait, if not for the daf, I don't know if it's probably a mile just in the chance to have a bit of talking to each other. So the Gemara discussed Yud Ches Gezeiros, 18 Gezeiros that Shammai and Beis Hillel made up on one day. And now the Gemara mentioned, by the way, that did they argue, did they agree? So the top of the Gemara says 1.5 lines from the top. Kufa, Omar Yud Omar Shmuel, Yud Ches Gezeiro, Yud Ches goes through 18 things they decreed, Ubi Yud Ches Nechleku, and 18 things they argued. Meaning that first they argued, and eventually they all came to an agreement. That they agreed, they didn't argue. And the entire day they argued, but the next day they argued. That means that day they argued about these 18 decrees, and the next day they agreed to it. We had this Gemara which was mentioned, by the way, before. That means the Rambam tells us in the Akdama to Pirush Mishnayos that Moshe got the Torah from Ma'aseh at Har Sinai in the year 2448. He's taught everything to Yeshua to the Zkenim, etc., etc. And nobody ever had any questions, any arguments, any discussions. Till came Shammai v'Hillel. Shammai v'Hillel only argued about 3 halachas. And then their Talmidim eventually argued over 300 different halachas. And Torah became almost like 2 Torahs. So Shammai v'Hillel only argued about the 3 things. So what are the 3 things they argued? So the Gemara says like this. Shammai oimer mikav chalo, v'Hillel oimer mikabayim, that means we have a machlokes tanoim. How much dough do you have to make in order to be chayav in challah? The shirish machlokes is because the pasuk says, "Reishis avisoseichem tichu tumah laHashem." You should take the beginning of your doughs. How much is the size of a dough? So the Gemara tells us that the pasuk tells us that everybody got an oimer every day in the midbar. So asir so ephah, 1/10 of an ephah. How big is an ephah? Not everybody has the chart. Some of you might have it out. It's called, I think one of them does. If you look over here, these are the measurements. One day, can you see it? One day, Yehuda Steinberg promised. One day, we're hoping still to have charts in our Gemaras of history and of measurements. But if you see it over here, I don't know if you can see it so well. Basically, like this. The way to remember it is like this: an ephah is 3 saw. A saw is 6 kav, a kav is 4 lug, a lug is 6 peitza, which means that an ephah has 432 eggs inside it. When they got an oimer a day, the oimer was asir so ephah, which is 43.2 eggs. The Torah says that is the size that you need to have in order to take challah. So therefore, if a person makes a dough of 43.2 eggs, that's how big it should be. Somehow, Hillel comes to a kav. Sorry, Hillel says 2 kav. Shammai say 1 kav, and the Chum say a kav umechza. Toast explains that Shammai held they never used to, the oimer, in those days they used to eat 2 meals a day. So the oimer was split into 2 doughs. 1/2 they would have in the morning, 1/2 they would have at night. So according to Shammai, they would only have half of asir sa'eh for a day. According to Hillel, they would make 1 dough in the day, and they would use the whole dough for both parts. We passed like the Chachamim that it was a kavo mechza. This is a bit mathematical, but if you work it out, it's like this. We'll go through the measurements slowly again. An ephah is 3 saw, a saw is 6 kav, a kav is 4 lug, a lug is 6 peitza. 432 eggs to an ephah. 1/10 of that is 43.2. A lug has 6 peitza. So if you need to get to 43.2 eggs, and a lug has 6 beitza, how many lug do you need to have approximately?
7 or 8.
Very good. Who said that? So over 7, less than 8. Now, what happened was, twice in history, this is called midborios, beitzas midborios. Twice in history, the measurements were changed. This gets very confusing, comes up in many places. This is nice to get a chance to talk about it. This was once in Yerushalayim and then once in Sipori. They went and changed the measurements. Imagine that everybody would say that a liter of water, instead of having 1,000 milligrams of water, a liter would now hold 1,200 milliliters of water. No, just such thing would happen. What would happen is, there would be actually, if somebody would say, for example, I want to drink 6 liters of water, so now with the new measurements, how many liters of water would you need to drink? 5. Because if a liter has changed from having 1,000 milliliters and now a liter has got 1,200 milliliters, so 5 new liters is the equivalent of the 6 old liters. You're not changing the amount you need, you're just changing, it means you're not changing the quantity, you're just changing the way the measurements are counted. What happened was, they added a 5th to all measurements. The Gemara calls it a 6th, because whenever the Gemara talks about the measurements, a 6th or 5th, the Gemara always calls it milabar, from the outside. If you want to add a 5th to 100, so let's say there's 2 ways of working it out. You can add a 5th of 100 is 20, that's 120 is a 5th of 20 is a 5th of 100. Or you can add a 25, and then you have 125, which comes out that by adding the 25, you've now got 125, which is now 25 is a 5th of 100. So when they used to add a 6th, it's our day terminology, we call it a 5th. So they added a 5th. They added a 5th in Yerushalayim. They added another 5th in Sipori, at 2 stages in history. So what happened was like this. In the Midbar, we said an Ephah had 432 eggs. They got an omer every day to eat. Asir Ephah, the omer every day they went to collect out the mon. They got an omer of mon, which is 43.2 eggs. They added, which came out, as somebody pointed out correctly, to 7 lug. A lug is 6 beitza. That comes to 42. 42 is 7 lug, plus another 1.2 eggs. If you were to add a 5th, meaning if you make all the measurements a 5th bigger, which you therefore divide it by minusing a 5th, it comes to 6 lug, which is 1.5 kav. Work it out. 43.2 is 7 lug plus 1.2 eggs. But all the lugim became bigger. So then what happens? Every lug became 1.2 bigger. So 5 lug became 6 lug. Then you have 1.12 eggs, which is a 5th of a lug, because 1.2 eggs is a 5th of a lug. A lug is 6 beitza, so a 5th of that is 1.2. If you divide 7.2 by 80%, you can do it on your calculators, it will come to 6, which is 1.5 kav. Then times it again by 1.2 at a later stage, and it came to kav, which came to 4 lug. So the Gemara says like this. Let's do it inside. Shammai omer mekav chala, you only need a kav for chala. The Hillel omer mekav bayim, you need 2 kav. The Chacham omer lekediv v'zev, a kav umechza, 1.5 kav. Chai b'chala. Mishigdilu amidus, that's for the last stage. They made it bigger. Omu chamishes v'em kema chayavim b'chala. Avir yisem v'chamisha p'tun, chamisha v'et chayavim. 5 kav yechav. So you're potter, 5 and a bit yechav. We paskin like the Chachamim, which means that if your wife asks you, how much dough do I need to make in order to be chayav challah, then what you have to answer is 43.2 eggs worth, which is the equivalent of 5 lug, which is difficult nowadays measure, but just over a kilo, according to the smallest shiur, to about 2.25 kilo. So if a woman makes a measure of dough less than a kilo, she doesn't need to take challah at all. More than 2 and a bit, she takes challah with a bracha. Between 1 and 2 and a bit, she takes challah without a bracha because we have a machlekes. And it's all dependent on the size of the dough which they made in the midbar every day with the omer. So that's the first machlekes Hillel Shammai. The idach Hillel omer. The halacha is when you've got a mikveh has to be rainwater, 40 sa'ah of rainwater. If you pour, after you've had 40 sa'ah of rainwater, you add even 1,000,000 sa'ah of tap water, it's okay. Once you've got a kosher mikveh, you can add and add and add and add and add. It doesn't matter. But before you've got 40 saw, let's say you have only 20 saw of rainwater, and you're waiting for more rain to come in. So if a bit of tap water comes in, it makes it possible. And there's a shaila is how much? The size of a hin. Maim sh'uvim of water which has been drawn. Firstness a mikveh make a mikveh possible. Now,
After the water comes, the rainwater comes.
Yes, even if later you add rainwater, it will still be possible, because since you've added tap water before the saw came in, therefore it is no good. So if let's say you've got a mikveh and somebody, you're waiting for it to be full of rainwater, and somebody comes in and pours in 12 hin of water, it's a problem. Here the Gemara briefly mentions that Hillel used the word hin. Hin is a very strange word. We're used to using the word lug. But the reason he used the hin was because here this halacha from Shema v'Avtalin, and a person should, as much as possible, use the words of his Rebbe. Shammai tisha kav in 9 kav. We don't agree with either. The Rishonim discuss where these shurim come from. The halacha is that it has to be a significant amount of water. Hillel held a significant amount of water is a hin, because that's the largest measure the Torah ever talks about in liquid. If you look in the Torah never talks about anything bigger than a hin. Shammai said 9 kav. The reason they said 9 kav is because that is a quarter of a hin, which is the smallest measure that ever Torah talks about. So both agree it has to be a significant measure, and one argues you have to find the biggest measure the Torah talks about, one the smallest measure. The Gemara says, at Shabbat Beis Gardim, 2 weavers came, 2 people that make clothes, weave clothes, Mishara Ashbos Shibushalayim, from the gate of the Ashbos Shibushalayim, Vayidu. They bore witness with Shemai v'Avtalin sheshloshas lug imam shumen places hamikvah. 3 lug. The reason why 3 lug is because what happens is when a person wants to have a shower, we had this previously, usually the minimum size of a shower is 3 lug. A lug, we said, is a 6 beitza. A lug is approximately 600 milliliters of water. So 3 lug is approximately 2 liters of water. So 2 liters of water is the minimum amount of water a person needs to have for a shower. So that's significant enough. The Gemara tells us very interestingly as follows, elsewhere, the Mishnah Nidius, that these 2 people were weavers. Weavers are people that make clothes. The Gemara says that of all professions, that's the worst profession to get into. Why? The Rash says, because people who deal with clothes usually spend most of the time talking to women. And therefore, it's not a respectable job because the person is usually mahara ba'avera. Furthermore, where did they come from? They came from the Shara Ashpo. Shara Ashpo was the gate in Yerushalayim where everybody took out the rubbish. People would take out the rubbish. So they came from the worst place. And not only they came from the worst place, they were the lowest job possible. And after came, we took their edus, and because of that, we paskin adayoim, the 3 lug of water that go into a mikveh make it possible. And from here, the Gemara says, is a raya, that whenever a person has the opportunity to go to a Beis HaMedrash, he should always go. Because we don't know how great it is. Sometimes a person comes up with a question and answer, and afterwards you can find out that the Chazanish from Kivega asked the question. A person can't underestimate. The 2 lowest people spoke from the lowest town, and they were the ones who machriya halacha. I remember I was once traveling with Zev Lef, and a lady called up, very stressed. And what happened was, there was a mikveh. And normally they dry out the mikveh before they put in the water. And here what happened was, they hadn't dried it out. So there was dampness in the mikveh. And we just said that before there's 40 sa'ah in the mikveh, what's the halacha? That 3 lug of water make it possible. So if there's 2 liters of water, 1.5 liters of water, the entire mikveh is possible, even if you add, we said millions of liters of rainwater. If you put the rainwater first and afterwards you add the tap water, it doesn't matter how much tap water. But here it was the other way around. It was the tap water, then the rainwater. And I remember he was very calm, and he said that the dampness is not 1.5 liters of water. There's no way that dampness can come to 1.5 liters of water. If you think about a pit of a mikveh, and it's not dry, he said it's not 1.5 liters, it's okay. But this is important halacha. If you ever build important, you want to set up a mikveh, you first have to put the rainwater in, 40 sa'ah, and then only then add the tap water, not other than that. So that 2 machlikas b'sham v'silal so far. One was regarding the size of dough you need to have to take challah, And the other one is regarding a mikveh. If rainwater comes in the middle, how big the rainwater has to be before, how much the rainwater has to be before the mikveh is possible. The halacha is that a woman who comes to niddah, the moment that she sees dam, she sees blood, she then becomes tummy. And therefore, anything that she touches from mashal truma becomes possible. Now, what happens if a woman will say at a Tuesday afternoon sees that she became a niddah? So everything from Tuesday afternoon she touches will become tummy, or truma will become possible. But the question is, what happens if Tuesday morning she was baking bread, and Monday evening she went shopping and bought loads of meat, and Sunday afternoon she went to her neighbors and touched all their food? What about all that food? Is that food tummy or not? That's a very big shaila which the Gemara in Niddah spends dafim and dafim discussing. Let's get the shaila clear. A woman, from the time that she sees down, is definitely mitame mikan ola from then on. The question is lemafrea, backwards. Do we say that if she saw now, it's reasonable to expect that she must have probably seen earlier in the day? The chances that she happened to see then doesn't mean that this is the first moment the dam came. The likelihood is the time came much earlier. But do you say no? If we see now, it means this is from then on and not back. So
how far back would they say?
Very good. That is the question which the Gemara discusses on and on and on. So the Gemara says like this: from the moment they see it onwards, the very maker. That means if at 4 o'clock they saw, anything they touch from 4 o'clock onwards is tummy, and anything they touch till 4 o'clock is tummy. Even from every time they checked. So let's say it was a week before they checked themselves. So then a whole week, everything that they touched in the past week is tummy, because we are choshesh that everything that they had in the past week, that means maybe they saw from the past week. So from the last time they checked themselves, that is when everything is tummy. You take the smallest of the times, 24 hours or the last time they checked. So therefore, if let's say Wednesday 4 o'clock they saw, so then what happens is, then if they checked that morning and they didn't see, so from that morning onwards, everything is tummy. But from that morning backwards, everything is tummy. If they checked only a few days earlier, you go back 24 hours. That means the maximum tumah is going to be 24 hours past. But if they checked within those 24 hours, it says only till the last time they checked. When they checked, it's obvious the svar. What's the svar? Because if they checked and they didn't see, so you can be sure that there was no blood, and only afterwards. In the case where they didn't check for a few days, the reason we rely on 24 hours is because there's a chazaka. The Gemara that discusses what the chazaka is, that for that 24 hours only and not further. So that's how we pass. So this is the 3 machlekas b'Shammai and b'Hillel, and there's no more. And the 18 gezeros that we have in our Mishnah, which b'Shammai and b'Hillel argue, that's the Talmidim of b'Shammai and b'Hillel. The b'Shammai and b'Hillel never argued about that. Is that all there is? There's a machlekas regarding somebody who brings a korban on Yom Tov. Does he do smicha or not? The halacha is you're allowed to bring a korban on Yom Tov, even though shechting and burning is isur d'oraisa. But for certain korbanos are permitted. Leaning on an animal is forbidden. Does anybody know why leaning on an animal is forbidden? No, so you should say. Why are you not allowed to? If you want to go Yom Tov riding on a horse, are you allowed to ride the horse Yom Tov? Pesach's coming up, you're stuck in quarantine. You get bored. So you think to yourself, what should I do? So you go outside, find the horse, go riding. Is that okay on Yom Tov afternoon?
You might come to break a branch.
Oh, you might come to break a branch. And therefore, since they didn't want anybody to break a branch, they're not even allowed to lean on an animal. So let's say you've got a cow in your back garden, you're tired, you can't lean on your horse or your cow. So the question is, are you allowed to lean on an animal on Yom Tov? The basis of the machlekes is as follows. On one hand, leaning is also to do rabbanon, so should we also. On the other hand, you're about to do loads of isur d'oraisa over here, shechting, burning, etc. So the question is smicha enough a part of the korban that you should be allowed to do that? Others say the machlekes in the Gemara, what machlekes is. You could have done smicha before Yom Tov, so why did you wait till Yom Tov? There's machlekes you're allowed to do smicha on Yom Tov. So Gemara says that's machlekes Shammai v'Hillel. It's since machlekes Shammai v'Hillel, so what's going on? Nobody big of the Rebbes argue. And there, this machlekes, where they're allowed to do smicha on Yom Tov, fascinatingly enough, is a machlekes that lasted for many generations. It was the biggest machlekes that ever existed in history. Yosef ben Yehuda and Yosef Shved argued. Shema V'Avtali argued
Oh, is it in Chagiga?
Yes, it's more in Chagiga. Every generation from the Anshe Knesset Gdola all the way to Shammai V'Hillel, every single generation they argued about this one question. That's the only argument they ever had. Can you lean on an animal on Yom Tov? So since it's not a machlokes only between Shammai and Hillel, that's not one of the things I counted. The halacha is, mentioned this before, that for something to become tamei, it has to go through a process. What process? What does it happen? Oh, it has to get wet. And what happens if you are cutting grapes down and you're planning at the end of it to squeeze it for wine? And while you pull the grapes off the tree, of the vine, it drips all over the grapes. Now, if you are not going to squeeze the grapes, you wanted to eat the grapes, obviously the juice is annoying you because you don't want the juice. What do you want? You want the grapes to remain dry, that the thicker, the plumper the grapes are, the better it is. But here you're anyway planning to squeeze them. Since you're anyway planning to squeeze them, therefore you're not so upset about the liquid. But we're talking about where you put them into a basket, which the basket has holes inside it. So all the liquid of the grapes is going to spill onto the floor. So are you happy about the liquid or not? What would you say? If you are harvesting grapes and it goes into a basket, the basket's full of holes and it's dripping wine, would you be happy with the wine or not happy with the wine?
Not happy.
Not happy, because you're losing all your wine. So the question is that wine which you're not happy about, is it machshir the grapes to become tummy? And more later we'll discuss at great length what the machlokes is. Okay. So you see there's another machlokes. Why do you say there's only three? We've got four. The Shammai, Hillel kept quiet. Hillel eventually agreed to Shammai. That means there's only three machlokes Shammai and Hillel. The measurement of dough for challah, the amount of water you need to mikveh to make it possible, and with the woman who becomes season nida, how far back is she metame? All three cases, it's interesting enough, we don't pass them neither like Shammai nor like Hillel. The Gemara mentions other machlokes Shammai and Hillel, the Gemara pushes them away. The reason is either because other people argue about it or because Hillel eventually agreed. Now we're going back to a new sugya, which we mentioned previously. We're eventually going to go back to the 18 Gezeros, but since we started on Chastum, the Gemara mentioned something else which we mentioned previously. Yosef ben Yehuda is Sreida. The Yosef ben Yochanan is Yerushalayim, that they mentioned in Avos. There were two great leaders that lived at the same time. One was Ish Tzreida, meaning a man who was important in Tzreida. Some people say that he was the leader of Tzreida, and one was Ish Yerushalayim. Gozu Tumala Tzamim. They said, all land of Chutz La'aretz is Tomei, V'akleis Chochitz, and all glass. Therefore, all land in Chutz La'aretz is Tomei. Does anybody know why all land in Chutz La'aretz should be Tomei?
It might be a mace.
The dead people, the Goyim in Chutz La'aretz, were not careful. The dead people in Chutz La'aretz were not careful to bury them in designated spots. So wherever you're walking, you could easily be pushing a dead body or walking over a dead body. A dead body is metame in many ways. Fundamentally, there are two main ways. The two main ways are touching, moving, carrying. That's one way. Another way is by standing over. Oh yeah. If you walk into the same room as a dead person, or you stand over a dead person, or the dead person is over you, let's say that person's the roof, that's called tumas oil. There's a big machlokes tanoim as to whether a goy is metame ba'oil. The pasuk says, Odom ki yomus ba'oil, a man who dies ba'oil. The Gemara says, Atem kruim Odom, Klal Yisrael called Odom, and goyim are not called Odom. There's a very famous story in the Beilis trial that he was accused of killing a goy, and they said to him, Atem kruim Odom, you are called Odom, and therefore it's a right that we don't mind killing goyim. And they answered him the famous answer that Atem kruim Odom. Odom is singular. Klal Yisrael are considered singular. When we hear of a Yid dying somewhere else around the world, we get upset about it. She'enkein goyim are never called singular. They're called Ish and Noshim. You'll never use the word Odom regarding goyim because they're never the singular. So there's machlokes to knowing whether goyim are metame ba'oil or not. But they definitely are metame through touching, carrying, etc. If you see a dead body of a goy and you pick him up, or you move him, or you touch him, you become tomei. You walk in the same room, it's a machlokes to know. Now, the Gemara says they paskin that all of Chutz La'aretz should be tomei. So there's a couple of Kohanim here. Toli's a Kohen. Shai, I think you're a Kohen as well. Anybody else a Kohen? So none of you should be allowed to walk outside your houses because you're all in Chutz La'aretz. You should be locked up, quarantined for the next till you move to Eretz Yisrael. This is a big Shai in the poskim, jokingly apart. And they say that nowadays, unfortunately, when Eretz Yisrael, we're in Golus, and in Eretz Yisrael as well, they don't designate the spots clearly. So you're not better off walking in Eretz Yisrael. So you are allowed to walk in Chutz La'aretz. I can see a big sigh of relief on Toli's face. He was about to be stuck at home. It's a big halacha. A person that kohen is not allowed to become Tomei. But the halacha is anyway that a person's not allowed to become Tomei, and all of Chutz La'aretz is Tomei. Now, before the Gemara goes into the halachic aspect, the Gemara gets bothered on the historical aspect. Yosef ben Yezer, let's do a bit of history. Any of you know Yosef ben Yezer? When did they live approximately? No, where did they live? Okay, the Churban Abayis, the first base midrash was destroyed in the year 3338. The second base midrash was built in the year 3408. That 2,400 years ago. How many years later did Yosef ben Yezer did they live? Not long later. You should know it from Mishnah's Ovos. Is because they were Talmidim of Antignas Shesecha, not much later. Since it wasn't much later, they lived approximately 200-300 years before the Churban Bayis Sheni. Says the Gemara, we're up to the 2 dots, about 50 lines from the bottom. But the Chachamim that lived 80 years before the Churban decreed this, not them. Domav Kahana, Kishachal Mishmor Rabbi Yossi, when Mishmor Rabbi Yossi got not well, Sholchu Loi. They sent him a message as follows: Rabbeinu, Rabbi, Emo Inanu Beis V'Gimod Dvorim, Shtaimo Sholish Dvorim, Shomarta Lonu Mishmor Vicha. Rabbi Shmuel was the son of Rabbi Yossi, who was a big Talmid Chacham, and Shmuel was dying. So they asked Rabbi Shmuel, quickly before you die, tell us some other halachas from your father. Shalach lehem kach amar, this is what my father said. Kuf Peishon, 180 years actually, Chav Abayis, before the base midrash was destroyed, Pashto Malchus Yishal Yisrael. Rome took over the control of Eretz Yisrael 180 years before the second base midrash was destroyed. Think about it, 180 years before the second base midrash was destroyed, Rome took over. Anybody know how long the story of Hanukkah happened before the Churban Bayis Sheni? We want to guess? Hazard a guess? How many years before Churban Bayis Sheni did Hanukkah, the story of the Ness of Hanukkah?
About 80, more or less.
How much?
80?
No, a lot more than 80, because the Rome took over 180. 200 years. Rambam says just over 200 years. Over 200 years. So if you think about it, the story of Hanukkah happened. The Hashmonaim took over the Eretz Yisrael. Once they took over Eretz Yisrael, eventually the grandchildren of Hashmonaim got into a civil war. And in order to help themselves to win the civil war, they asked Rome to intervene. That was a terrible, terrible, terrible mistake they ever did. Once Rome intervened, they never got out. So the whole story of Hashmonaim, the success of the Hashmonaim, was only actually about 20, 30, 40 years maximum. Anyway, so 180 years before the Churban, Rome took over Eretz Yisrael. 8 years before the Eretz was destroyed, they said that Eretz Chutz La'aretz is Tomei and glass is Tomei. 40 years before the Eretz was destroyed, Golus and Sanhedrin went into Golus, V'yoshvalo b'Chanuyos, and moved to a place called Chanuyos. 40 years before the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, there were things happening in the second Beis Hamikdash that showed them that the Beis Hamikdash was not going to last forever. Very scary things. For example, the red cloth, red string, which every year turned white, and Yom Kippur stopped turning white. The gates of the Beis Hamikdash closed automatically. Very scary things happened in the Beis Hamikdash without any, we don't know what, and they realized the Beis Hamikdash is going to be destroyed. Since the Beis Hamikdash was going to be destroyed, they moved out of the Sanhedrin. He says, well, so what difference does it make when the Sanhedrin moved? They didn't pass Dinei Knas. They didn't pass Knas, and they didn't Dinei Nefashos. 40 years before the Churban, they didn't pass any more Dinei Nefashos. Nobody ever got killed. So now, that was history, the lesson. 180 years before the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, Rome took over. 80 years, they made a gzeira on glass and on Chutz La'aretz. 40 years, they stopped passing the Dinei Nefashos. Now, what did we say previously? That who made the gzeira on Chutz La'aretz? Yosef ben Yezer Shveita. And here you're telling us that who made the gzeira? 80 years before the Churban. If you're going to tell me, okay, Yosef ben Yezer lived 80 years before the Churban. We have a contradiction. One place says Yosef ben Yezer made the gzeira, and one place is say that it was 80 years before. I'll answer you, it's not a contradiction. Why is it not a contradiction? Yosef ben Yezer lived 80 years before the Churban. Tanya, that's certainly not true. How do I know? Hillel, V'Shimon, Gamliel V'Shimon, Noagu Nis Yosef Ne'abayis Me'er Shana. The last 4 leaders before the Churban Beis Hamikdash were Hillel, and his son was called Shimon, and then his grandson was called Hillel, and his great-grandson was called Shimon. And that was the Shimon that was killed, Shimon Gamliel, that was killed by Asorge Malchus. His son was the Gamliel of Yavne. Gamliel of Yavne was the one who set up the yeshiva in Yavne, and he helped Klal Yisrael set up Torah again. He's also famous for something else. This is quite hard to remember. Anybody remember what else Gamliel was very famous for? He was the one who set up the yeshiva in Yavne. What?
He was sacked as the Arbeistin, no?
Very good. Oh, who remembered that? Oh, that's very good. That's what I wanted. Oh, very good. He was sacked as that based him. It gives you an understanding, the whole story, perspective, because he was the first one. He was a leader for many years. His father, grandfather, and he was the first one in Yavne, and he wanted to make sure that this English is destroyed. Carry on. Very good. Anyway, so they were leaders for the last 100 years. They lived long before then. So it was going back to the contradiction. They lived many years before these four leaders. And these four leaders, they lived the last 100 years. So you can't say they lived in those 80 years. And yet the Gemara says that the Gzeira happened 80 years before. So did the Gzeira happen in the days of Yosef ben Yehuda, or did the Gzeira happen 80 years before? That's the contradiction. We're up to Tesvav, on the base at the top of the page. Now the Gemara is going to tell us back and forth. Basically, I'll just say an outline. There were two separate gezeiros and two separate halachas. One gezeira was referring to the land itself, a clod of earth. If you picked up a clod of earth, imagine you go outside to your back garden, you pick up a clod of earth. That earth is earth of chutzlah, so it's tummy. And you touch that to truma. There's another kind of truma where you take your truma and you hang it over your back garden. So it's in the air over your back garden. Now, which one's more likely to create truma? A clod of earth touching your truma, or your truma hanging over your back garden? Which one would you say is more likely to be
truma hanging over the back garden? Because it's more likely to be a body.
You're right, but if you remember, we said that goyim are not metame b'oil. You're more likely to have a dead goy in your back garden than a dead yid. And a goy, according to many Tanoim, is only metame by touching. So if you take a clod of earth, there's likelihood there's a bone of a dead goy. And when you touch it to your truma is tomei because it touched a clod of earth, including the body of a goy. But when you put your tumah hanging over your back garden, so which tumah is it got? Only tumas oil. Tumas oil is not metame by goyim. It's only metame by yidden, according to the way we pass compassions. So therefore, which one's more likely to come tomei? If you touch the clod of earth to the tumah rather than hanging it over your garden. Anybody, if it's not clear, you should stop me straight away. Anybody not clear about this? When the clod of earth touches the tumah, so then it's much worse. Why is it much worse? Because the clod of earth might have a bone or piece of tumah inside it, and therefore when it touches the body, so when it touches the truma, you're touching a dead body to the truma. When you're hanging it over there, it's only in oil. Oil is not metame as much. Now another thing is like this: they could have passed that the truma is so tummy that you burn it because it's tummy. You burn tummy truma, or there's something called a litzlois, to hang it. Hang it means you can't burn it because you're not allowed to burn truma unless you're sure that it's tummy. So what do you do with it? You wait and wait and wait and wait until it becomes moldy and inedible, and then you get rid of it. So there's two things that can pass them: whether to burn it or to hang it, and whether we're talking about a clod of earth or whether it's hanging over the air. So the Gemara now is going to say different stages. We had a question of Yestir. One place it said they made the Gezerah when 80 years before. And one place says the Gezerah was done by Yosef ben Yehuda, which was said that was a few hundred years before the Churban. So how can you reconcile the two? The answer is very straightforward, that there was different stages that made different gezeiros, and the Gemara now goes through the different stages. Elo, also Inu, Yosef ben Yehuda and Yosef Shreida goes to gusha on the clod of earth lisrif to burn. Va'aviro on the air klum, that's not tummy at all. So the air makes it that it's talu, meaning that you have to wait for it to go moldy. And later they said the next stage was that it should become. The next stage was that it should, and not like they said that the air is not metame. They said the air is also metame. Remember the chodesh zeros or the tchilog chodesh zeros have the sreifa. That the original gezei was that the tumah should be burnt. That was made for burning. Yodaim who the tchilas gzeros in the sefer. Hands make sreifa. That chutzlos doesn't create sreifa, only creates tzliya. And also in Ugaza gusha litlos, a clod of earth that's tolu. The air doesn't make any tumah at all. Also, the 80 years goes out Gusha this way, so Moses says it was in stages. First is what did they say? They said that when it goes in the air, you have to wait for it to go moldy. Sorry, if it touches the clot of earth, you have to wait for it to go moldy, you have to wait, but the air is nothing. The 80 years, they said the gush has to be burnt, and the abira has to be tolui. More now brings that this gezeira about the clot of earth, the earth of chutzlots, which we had before a contradiction, was it 80 years before the Churban, or was it a few hundred years before the Churban? The Gemara brings another brisa, that in fact, a Mishnah, that in fact the gezeira was done many years after the Churban, the Tanakh. For 6 different sfeikas we burn truma. Asofik Beis HaPras. Beis HaPras is a field where somebody was buried inside it, but we don't know where he was buried. So if truma goes in such a field, then you have to burn the truma. If a person is in Eretz Yisrael and somebody brings in earth from Chutzlot and it touches truma, you have to burn the truma. All clothes of an Amoritz, if a truma touches the clothes of an Amoritz, you have to burn the truma, because we're choshesh that maybe his wife, when she was a zova, sat on it, and clothes which are sat on when the woman is a zova become tummy. Any clothes that you find and you don't know who they belong to, and they touch truma, the truma has to be burnt. If you see spit on the floor and you don't know who spat it, and it touches truma, you have to burn the truma, because the spit of a zov is avatura. If you see urine of a human being and next to it urine of an animal, but you don't know who the urine of the human being, whose it was, and it touches truma, then that truma has to be burnt. The reason is the urine of a zov is avatuma, and therefore it could be that this is atomic. And Rashi points out that even though there you see miraglayim, the urine of an animal, you may think to yourself, well, if that belongs to an animal, maybe this also belongs to an animal. No, you can't rely on such a thing. Just because that belongs to an animal, maybe this belongs to a human being. If you definitely touch any of these 6 things, but all these 6 things are only sofik tumah if you work them out. So for this atumah. Even if it's only a sofik, meaning, let's say, for example, you've got clothes of an amoritz, which is sofik tumah, and you've got truma, which is sofik touch the clothes. You don't even if it touch the clothes, then we should say yochid if happened in private domain sofin, in a public domain not. We should say yochid tolin, you don't do anything with it. That means you wait for it to go bad. We should say him to hold. So we've got 3 stages to this gezerah. They made the gezerah by Yosef They made the gezerah 8 years before the Churban, and they made the gezerah the Yosha. Answers more. The first time they made the gezerah, they made as follows: Gozua gusha, the clod of earth, the littlest that it has to hack. Va'aviro on the air, v'lo klum, that is not tummy at all. V'asa upon the shmenim shana, gozu idivid the littlest, made the both gezerah, that they're both, you have to wait and see what will happen, and wait for it, and until it goes bad. So it's 3 separate stages. As we explained, the clod of earth is more tummy than the avir. And as we said, burning is a more chomodik gezerah than hanging. So therefore, the first gezerah was that clod of earth is you have to wait for it, you can't burn it, and air is not tummy at all. The Chachamim of 80 years, they said both of them have to wait for 80 years. You have to wait for it to become and decide if it's tummy or toy. And in Usha they said a clod of earth you burn it, and the air it's just have to wait for it. And you leave it until it becomes bad, and then you get rid of it. So now we've established the whole cheshbon of the gezerah. The Mishnah Melech has big avichos. Why in the world do they all make such complicated gezerahs? And there's a yesod that he says, which we have many times, is that Chazal never wanted to make something completely tummy, that people should not have it 100% tummy, because then we're choshesh that somebody might bring a korban to the Beis Hamikdash thinking that it's tummy. If a person was this week's parasha actually, if a person's tummy and goes to Beis Hamikdash, he has to bring a korban. Now, if a person becomes tummy midura bonon and he goes to Beis Hamikdash, can he bring a korban? No, because it bechulin la'azor. It doesn't need to bring a korban. It's bechulin la'azor. So therefore, whenever they made exer dura bonon, they never made it 100% tummy. They always made certain colors that it's not 100% tummy. Okay. So Moses says like this. Next story: Kleis chuchis, all glass. That means for hundreds and hundreds of years until this period of time, glass did not become tummy. Wasn't tummy at all. They came along and they decided to make it a tummy. It says, well, my time goes on tummy. Why in the world did they decide that glass should be tummy? Chazal decided that since it's made out of earth, what's glass? Glass is heated up sand. What's earthenware? Earth, which is glazed and made in a pottery. So therefore they said, since the ingredients to make glass is very similar to the ingredients made to earthenware, so you should get the same tumah as earthenware. Now here we're coming up to a topic which is a very sadistic topic. It comes to Pashat Tazria very lot. And that is, in Shmini, that depending on the ingredients that something's made out of is the level of tumah. There's metal, there's earthenware, and there's other things. Each one has different halachas. One of them is, for example, very famous. Anybody know offhand a chiluk between a glass cup, an earthenware cup, and a metal cup regarding hilchas tumah? Anybody want to say there's many
chiluk within the airspace?
Very good. That is
how you get rid of it.
The most famous one is that kli cheres, if you put something in the airspace of a kli cheres, and let's say you dangle a sheret, so you dangle a reptile, dead reptile, inside the airspace of kli cheres, and it never touched the kli cheres is tummy. Alternatively, if the kli cheres is tummy, and you dangle a grain of wheat in the kli cheres inside it, then the grain of wheat becomes tummy even if it didn't touch it. Mash ein kain. Metal, if you dangle something in the metal bowl and it never touched the metal bowl, will the metal bowl become tummy? No, it does not become tummy. That's a chumrah by kli cheres. Like kli cheres is tummy me'avir. Can you tell me a kula by kli cheres? Anyone say a kula by kli cheres? If you touch the back of a kli cheres, if you've got a bowl and you touch the back of the bowl, by kli cheres it will be tummy, by metal it will be tummy. Oh, the chilukim. So the Gemara says like this: glass is the same ingredients as kli cheres, and since the same ingredients as kli cheres, therefore it said it's tummy. So the Gemara says, the halacha is all earthenware things do not become toy if you dip them into a mikvah. So glass should be the same thing. Glass is very, very smooth, and therefore a bit of mud on a piece of glass easily slides off. Because it easily slides off, people don't care to have mud on the glass. That's what the Mishnah says. Because they don't care to have mud on the glass, if you dip a glass bowl in a mikvah and it's got a bit of mud on it, are you yotze your tfilas kelim? Or yotze tfilas kelim if it's a bit of mud on your glass cup? Yes. Why? Because you don't care about the mud. It comes off very, very easily. But if let's say you put tar on your glass cup and then you dip it in the mikvah, then it's not a good tefillah. Why? Tar and other things like it, they stick to the glass. And therefore, if you turbulate them in the mikvah, it won't work. So it's not.
What about mud if it's some raw boy?
Oh, okay, that would be no good. You're right. So a bit of mud. This is kind of musk. This has got English translation from more. I'm curious to see it. The glass is so you see that glass can be too. You made a hole. This is a very, very interesting shayla. It comes up a very lot in the Pesach like this. You have a glass bowl, and you make a hole in the glass bowl, and you fill up the glass hole with metal. Would you say that this bowl should have a tower of glass or a tower of metal? Without the metal, can you use the bowl? No, it's got a hole inside it. So the metal makes it that this bowl can be used. And we know that halachas of metal and glass have different halachas to a tower. So that's a machlokes. How does it work? A glass bowl that you made a hole and you put inside it lead. So we're talking about a glass bowl which has got a bit of lead inside it to fill it up. So therefore it's tummy like metal because of the metal bowl. And therefore it is. And therefore, if you've got a bit of mud on it, it's okay. A bit of tar, it's no good. Elamata says, top of the sign of Mudalef. The back of a glass bowl should become tummy. Alomat, why did we learn? Clay cheres, earthenware. The clay nessa. Nessa is made out of earth, white soil. Tumas and shava, both are equal. Mitamin, they become tummy. Umatamin, and they make other things tummy, me'avirein. That's what we mentioned before. They become tummy from the air, and they spread a tumah from the air. If you put something in the air, it catches tumah and it spreads. They become tummy from the back. So Rashi explains, I found the cup. I hope you'll excuse. It's not a very pretty cup. Can anybody see this cup? Can you see it? It's a becher. Now, this becher is got a stand. Now, if sometimes people get thirsty and they drink from the top, sometimes people get thirsty and they drink from the bottom, because the bottom also has the ability to pour liquids inside it. So if you dangle a sheretz in here, of course it's tummy. What happens if you dangle a sheretz in there? So the chiddush is that's also become tummy. We'll see later, I'll bring this cup for other reasons, but we'll see later why I brought this cup. I don't know if we'll do it today, we're running out of time. But this cup, if you put something here, it's not tummy. If it would be earthenware, by the way. Neither of these are earthenware. I'm talking about if it would be earthenware. Why? Because here you can actually drink from the cup. You can drink from the base. Ma'achavein, you can drink from it. This, you can't drink from the base. So therefore, it's not metame. So, kleicheres are metame from the base when you could drink from the base. Ein metame migabe, not metame from the back. Ushvirosim metarosim. When you break a kleicheres, it becomes torah. They say that a person is like a kleicheres. That if he breaks his gaiva, then what happens is he becomes torah. Leiv nishbo, a broken heart, Hashem. And we're compared to kleicheres. Anybody remember offhand we were compared to kleicheres? We say at the end of the Sana Turkey of kleicheres hanishbo, kechotzi yovesh, ketzitz noivel. Okay. So therefore, other things like glass, they don't become tomei. And the halacha is that, don't have these halachas, meaning that glass becomes tomei from the back. Earthenware, when you break it, you can never use it again. Glass, if it gets broken, it seems you can use it again. So therefore, it is metame. We'll come to this glass more later, but just one point so far we've learned as follows. Glass is metame in its air. Why is it metame in its air? Because it's from the same ingredients as earthenware. It's also metame from the back, which is not like kleicheres. Why is it not metame like from the back, like not like kleicheres? Because glass has got the chumrah of both. We've given it the chumras of earthenware, because it's the same ingredients as earthenware. And we give it the chumrah of metal. Why do we give it the chumrah of metal? Because metal is something which once it breaks, you can easily fix it up. And therefore glass, when it breaks, you can also fix it up. So therefore it's got the chumrah of both. Says the Gemara, we've got an important halacha, which is going to be quite interesting to do tomorrow. Now let's say this is metal. So let's say you take this, and it's tummy. Let's say I touched it enough to be in Televaya, or I take it, it's in a dead person's house, it's tummy. And then what I do is, I break it. Is it tummy? Anybody know? If I take a metal plate and I smash it into pieces, is it tummy?
Yeah.
No.
Only by earthenware.
Yeah, but, we'll see. That because it never comes back. No, it's also, you're right, we'll come to it later. It's not tummy while it's broken, because it's pieces, it's not keli. If I then fix it back up, and it doesn't touch another person who's tummy, what would you say? Does it come back the tumah or not? So the Gemara says, yes, the tumah comes back. So now the question is, why by kleicheres does it not come back? So the Gemara says like this. The Tanan, kli matcha is pshuteyan, a flat piece of metal. Umekableyan, a bowl of metal. Tamei, not tomei. Nishbu, if they break, toavu, they become tori. Chozav also when kedim, if you make out of it a bowl, chozu the tumos nishana, the old tumah comes back. Vilu gabe klei schuches dan kli eitz v'kli oy v'kli etz v'kli schuches pshuteyan toyin umekableyan tamei. Nishbu, toavu, they become tori. There are two important differences between wood and metal, between glass and metal. Metal has two chumras and nothing else happens. These halachas are not, this daf is a hard daf. I can't take it away from the fact it's a hard daf, but it's many yesodis, and if you pick up just the yesodis, it's geschmack, it's very good value for one to know it. And the halacha is like this: metal, a flat piece of metal is tummy. A flat piece of wood is not tummy. The reason is because the Torah says in the same breath that a pasuk says like this: "Kol beged chol kli oy v'chol ma'aseh izim," and the pasuk says, called that mentions a sack, a sack with wood and with glass, which teaches us, just like a sack is something which has a base kibble, it has a place you can catch things inside it. Also, wood is only metame if you can catch something without. But metal, which is not mentioned in that post, is not got that halach. So we've got one difference between metal and wood. A flat piece of metal is metame. A flat piece of wood is not metame. Another difference is like this, that a metal which becomes tomic and then you fix it, what happens? The tumor comes back. Wood, which you break it and then you fix it, the tumor does not come back. The Gemara that we just said that Kli Cheres has the level of tumor of metal, let it have this tumor as well. So what it says, Kli Zchuchis du Abonon, Tumas Kli Zchuchis du Abonon, the tumor Yeshana du Abonon. The issue that all glass becomes tumor is only du Abonon. And the fact that something that was tumor and gets fixed becomes tumor again is only du Abonon. The tumor devaisa achisu v'abonon tumor. The tumor du Abonon achisu v'abonon tumor. They never made the gzeir by du Abonons for both, and therefore they never said that's gzeir to gzeir. Therefore, they didn't make tumor by glass by tumor yeshano. Let's just I want to finish off this whole sugi, which is the bottom 1.5 lines on Amud base, because then tomorrow's a whole new thing. Glass should become pot tummy. So a flat piece of glass becomes tummy like a flat piece of metal. That's what it says. The tummy minateras. Let's say glass should also become tummy. As well says, they didn't want people to burn tummy and kodesh, therefore they didn't make a tummy like that. Let's just summarize. Glass is tummy. Why is glass tummy? Because it's made out of the same ingredients as earthenware. Furthermore, if it's got the same halachas as earthenware, let's have all the halachas of earthenware. Answer well, no, because it's also comparable to metal. What's the comparison to metal? That metal, you can dissolve it and melt it and make it again. And glass, you can do the same. It's got the halachas of kleiches and of metal. Furthermore, if you've got the tumor of both, so then it should become tummy yeshana, and it should become tummy pshute, meaning that if a flat piece of glass should become tummy, and also if you break it and it comes back again. Answers the Gemara, no. Legabe tumor yeshana, since only do Rabbanan we don't say comes back. Let's gabe tumor legabe pshute kliates. They wanted to make something mutter that people should be aware that it's only do Rabbanan. We're up to Tesan base, just do the last 2 lines and it's finished. The whole sugya. Rav Ashi on Tesan base top of the page. The olam lekli cheres dam. Glass only has the halachas of kli cheres. This is like this. If you look at a glass cup, then what happens is the difference between the outside and the inside is not very noticeable. It's not noticeable at all. From the distance, for example, if you see a dead reptile sitting on the outside of your glass, and you're looking at a distance, says the Sfas Emes, somebody would ask you, what does it look like? It looks like a reptile is inside your cup. And therefore, if you're going to say that glass is tummy, they needed to say the outside of glass is tummy. Because if you say that the outside is not tummy, people will see somebody walking around with a glass cup with a dead reptile on the outside. They'll think that the dead reptile is on the inside, the dead shells, and they'll say, look, it's not tummy. And they will realize it's on the outside because the outside and the inside look very much the same. So therefore, they were makel that they were machmir that the outside is tummy, but it doesn't have the tumor of matchos. Let's just summarize what we've learned today. We've learned there are 3 machlik shama and hillel. We said about challah, tumas nida, and regarding what was the other one? Did quite a lot today actually, and how much to pass in the mikvah. Then the Gemara went through a bit the history of the tumor of Offer Chutzlot. We had a whole shaila regarding glass. And that is regarding glass, what tumor does it have? The one says it has this. Everybody agrees it has tumor of klei cheres because it's made out of the same ingredients as klei cheres. And the shayla is, does it also have the halachas of metal or only the tumor on the outside because the outside looks like it's on the inside? I have to say, I get tremendous chizuk. I should be zeichet, have a very good woche, a mazzik woche, a gesunte woche. You should all say hello to each other. It's a good opportunity to see how everybody's doing. Is everybody okay? How many people can talk at the same time on this?
No one.
Everybody can talk.
Everybody can talk. We should all talk.
Oh, Hashem.
We have to get to work now. Some of us have to get to work now.
Learning
privileged. Say again? I said some of us are able to go to work. You should feel privileged. Yeah.
The schus of learning Torah should keep us as Torah's magno matzah. Do shmir like Torah. The Gemara Sanhedrin says, "Mayas otav inosil What should the person do to be safe with souls of Chevesh and Mashiach and other souls? The Gemara always says Yasuk B'Torah. Versus Isaac B'Torah, the Gemara says that Torah is like fire, and just like fire keeps everything away, burns away all kinds of trouble. Also, Torah can burn away all kinds of souls. Okay, it says over here, your internet connection is unstable. Oh, even this. Have a very good Woche. Gesund Woche. Hatzlacha with everything. Shkoch.
See you tomorrow.
Tony, what time is Shiur
Tomorrow
tomorrow?
night, 8 o'clock.
Is there Shiur tomorrow?
Tomorrow
8
night,
p.m.
8 o'clock. The Zion would base 2 lines.
Rest of the week.
Of the rest of the week. Oh, Levi, now I suddenly see you. Where were you now?
Ben, get on the group.
Levi?
What?
Get the place on the group quickly for Yechiel.
Oh.
Is there one in the morning? Is there a Shiur in the morning?
No, that's it now, Shai. Only one a day for
You
you.
can listen to it again if you want to.
Okay, cheers.
You do Chazar if you want to. So that's not with everything.
Not much else to
No,
do
Rabbi
anyway.
Yehuda, we had a bed in Brochus, which if you split up and then put it back together, it gets its old tumah.
Oh.
But can't you say that if it's a simple bed of Pshutei Kliya, it's just different boards, why should it get back its tumah?
I hear, and then we talk about wood. And we said over here that wood, it doesn't get back its tumah. I don't know, it's a good question, I don't know. How can a wooden bed get back its tumah? The Gemara over here says, let's just see. Oh, I don't know, it's a kasha taka. You've seen anybody talk about it? No, I don't know, I have to look it up, if I remember.
Yeah.
Any other questions? It's Mitzvah Shem tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. 2 nights atop the Zion base. The truth is, because of Pesach, I don't know how long this is going to last, but Shabbos, guys, we might not always be able to do it. It's good to take a little bit ahead. Also, it's a shorter dafim. But it gets easier, Not completely easier, but that's not a very good work. You have to tell me, Tony, how it was a Kula Loshen, yeah?
I'll tell you, I'll get some feedback, no problem.
No, I went to it. What do I do now? Do I turn it off or?
Just switch your phone off, switch your phone off.
Yep.
Good work, everybody.
Well, be well.
Good work. Oh. Right, Moshe, you've got control over this computer. So what's going to happen to you? Oh, now are you going to set it up now, Moshe? That it's going to be uploaded and everything. Moshe, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Moshe? Moshe?